Todd Show. We are a weekly podcast that critiques and memes music. I'm your host, Trevor, aka the disc jockey that doesn't like horses. I heard some horse news yesterday. I think it was an average of 10 horses weekly died while racing at racetracks. And I said, that is the greatest news I've ever heard.
You really don't like horses. We couldn't get you to ride the carousel for that.
Why would I ride the carousel? I'm a grown-ass man.
Everyone's a kid at heart, you know?
Did you guys go on the carousel?
Yeah.
No. No, you did not. I'm joined by my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, my Droog, Vincent.
AKA your new Droog, who you have a pleasant conversation with. We just chatted up. It's really nice and formal.
It's good. No, if it's nice and informal.
Informal.
Nice and formal.
We're wearing suits.
Tuxedos. This is episode 90 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call Lil Nas X's Illmatic. I saw we were getting a lot of flack for making some Nas jokes.
We always get flack for Nas jokes.
Nas is not that good.
Yeah, because he hasn't made anything good since Illmatic. And then he tried to make Illmatic again, and it was still Matic. That's the dumbest title.
I think it's pretty creative, actually. More creative than we give him credit for. Today, we're going to be talking about 4 of the latest projects that have dropped. Of course, Lil Nas X's latest debut project, 7 EP. The latest Kirin J Callinan cover album, Return to Center, which has a double meaning. Benny the Butcher's latest project, The Plugs I Met. He's just constantly releasing music. So this is the
He's going up to the plugs in the wall, and he's like, hey, how you doing?
I think Benny should change his name to Lil B the Butcher.
That's nice.
Based on his output here. And then we've got the latest Your Old Droog surprise album, Transportation.
Another guy who's been putting out a lot of music lately.
Yeah.
So yeah, before we start, the intro demo today, which we just created 5 seconds ago, is called Nas Isn't Very Good. That's what we're going to call it.
You can buy it on Bandcamp.
You can't buy it on Bandcamp. It will remain there on that hard drive until the end of time. So yeah, are you ready to Lil Nas X it up?
No.
Lil Nas X gonna give it to you?
That's better.
That's better?
Today we're going to be talking about the latest 7 EP from Lil Nas X.
How little is this guy? How little are we talking about?
I heard Lil Nas X is under 4 foot.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So we can beat him up.
Yes.
That's how, oh, so this album's not very good then. This EP's not very good, based on my standards. If I can beat that person up, it's not a good record. That's why Gunna wasn't good, because I could beat Gunna up based on the standards of that record.
I could. Never mind.
Isn't that a good scale?
Yes. Gunna sleeping with the fishes. Lil Nas X is an Atlanta MC. Go figure, the latest in the long line of Atlanta MCs. But you might know him from his hit viral song Old Town Road, which kind of spawned out of the Yeehaw Challenge meme on TikTok, which you like drink water and that's just like
you turn
cowboy water or something.
Regular thoughts turned into Yeehaw thoughts. It was really innovative meme.
And then people would appear with like gigantic foam cowboy hats and this song would be playing.
It's truly 2019's version of Crank That Soulja Boy. It's essentially what it was. Even though there wasn't a dance attached to it, it was essentially the same type of viral hit.
The song kind of unironically climbed its way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it also was on the top of the country charts, but it was removed by the country gods.
Brad Paisley's like, no, can't allow it.
The country gods, there's 2 of them so far. There's, what's his name?
The guy from The Voice?
No, not Luke Bryan. Dale Earnhardt is on the country. He's a country god.
Who's the other one?
I'm trying to think. What's his name?
Does he have him?
Dale
Earnhardt Jr.?
No, he's still alive.
Do you have to be dead?
Hank Williams is the other one.
I really like Dale Earnhardt's last country album where he's literally just revving up his engine to various pitches. So on April 16th, it was announced he made the remix with Billy Ray Cyrus in April, and on April 16th, it was announced that he broke Drake's record for the most US streams in 1 week, which was very surprising. This is essentially a novelty track for what it was. Yeah, because like even when we're talking about it during the playlist, I didn't think Lil Nas X's future was in this. Like, it would be interesting if there was a future in this, but I don't think that's what he was really going for. I thought this was more of just like fucking around, and it just somehow became a hit.
I think that his genius video he did over Old Town Road kind of cleared a lot of that up.
Yeah. But the song, recently he's been getting into a lot of trouble as well. Apparently he has some like Islamophobic tweets on like an old account. It's really weird what people are canceling on Twitter for. I've seen stuff canceling him out because he's gay, maybe, or maybe because he's not gay. I don't know. I don't think that really matters. I just think it's really stupid. Also, he has some nudes leaking. I don't know why you want to cancel someone over their nudes unless they're distasteful nudes.
A lot of people have nudes leaking.
And then also, there's another big one. So, like, there's the Islamophobic tweets. The fact that, which is like, it's a bad thing, but also at the same time, he's not going to be canceled over it. And I also think he's such a young person that I feel like he doesn't have enough exposure to that type of stuff, if it's even true, if those tweets are even his.
I couldn't find anything.
And then also, what was the last thing? People are mad at him because he was running a Nicki Minaj stan account. And that's also at the same time, recently he like made a joke about Nicki Minaj. So people were saying he's being untrue to himself or some bullshit. And I was just like, what does this have to do with fucking anything? But I think it's really interesting. I thought his Twitter account, for the most part, it was like memey, but it also seemed like he was like down to earth in some extent, that he was able to point the figure at him and stuff.
He was funny.
How he was like posting the track list of 7, and it was all just remixes of Old Town Road or instrumentals, or the fact that he was posting a bunch of memes saying people that he can't make a song over 3 minutes and then have like a reaction meme attached to it with like a cringe face. But I was interested going into this because I just didn't know what it was going to be. And then Painini came out, and I like it. It's just short. It's like,
it definitely could have benefited from more verses. I also think that it was kind of cheesy, where he was like, Panini, why are you such a meanie?
Yeah, like,
and then also Kurt Cobain got writing credits on it because it kind of sounds like In Bloom, but...
Well, Trent Reznor also got a writing credit because they sampled 9 Inch Nails, so...
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, why did they... No, wait, why did he get a credit? That's dumb.
He got, like, because it samples a 9 Inch Nails song.
I don't think he deserves it. I don't like Trent Reznor.
You don't like Trent Reznor?
No.
I think he also got put on, like, the Billboard Top 10 for producers because he got that writing and production credit.
That's dumb.
I think that's really funny, actually.
I don't think that he should have credited that. That's neither here nor there, but I don't think either of them should have been credited because, like, Trent Reznor is, like, a different thing, but, like, crediting Kurt Cobain with writing credits on Panini because it kind of sounds like that. I understand, like, covering your ass so you don't get in trouble, but also, like, he doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, Kurt Cobain's dead. What is he gonna do with the money?
Yeah.
Where do you think Kurt Cobain's money just go to? Those like foundation, or not his foundation? What is it called?
Tombstone?
Yeah, they just put dollar bills on his tombstone. Or they make like they did what they did for X. They just built him a giant like mausoleum.
That's crazy.
But it gets bigger and bigger as time goes on because more money gets put
It's like
out.
a free-to-play game where you can keep expanding X's mausoleum.
But yeah, Panini, it reminds on the hook at least with like kind of the flat chorus vocals. Reminds me a lot of Post Malone.
That was the In Bloom section.
That was the In Bloom section.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Dave Grohl. But for the most part, going over this thing, I think Lil Nas X is trying to go over a bunch of different styles and seeing what really sticks, trying to not narrow himself down into this gimmick of country rap. I don't know if that's something he really wants to do with the rest of his career, but it's, at least I think with the country rap stuff, it's better than some of the pop rock he does on here. Because I think tracks like Family, You and Me, and Closure you like are just not really that interesting. They're not terrible because there's nothing like fundamentally wrong with them. It's just like why are you making pop rock?
It was a little off-putting when I heard that, because it's kind of weird when somebody only has one song really under their belt, and it's something that's never been seen before, and then all of a sudden we're going into an EP which like has a bunch of different styles in it. Like, I can't blame him for making the stuff that he did. I can't blame him for Family or Closure. They both not offensively bad, but they are like just a little off-putting and kind of weird to have on here, because they're not like good either. They're not good rock tracks, and they're not good like rap tracks.
Yeah,
they're not groundbreaking really in any way. But I can't say that they're like the worst thing that I've heard all year. And some part of me actually does kind of enjoy the weird novelty of hearing it.
When we do get to more like traditional hip hop with Kick It, I think more Lil Nas's character stands out on the track, and the lyricism talking about his upcoming and how this guy just wants to smoke with him and befriend him because he's famous, and then he kind of turns around and it's like, since you won't smoke with me, I don't like you anymore. I think it's really funny, and its lyricism and its approach. And I think it's making this idea of the upcoming and fame more Lil Nas X's in a time when we're getting a lot of hip hop tracks about the upcoming and fame. Rodeo, I think, is a standout moment on here, but I also think it could have done without the Cardi B feature where she's talking about her favorite channel's Lifetime or something like that.
Yeah,
it's just like, it's stupid.
I feel like Cardi B added a lot of validation to this project and this track, but I also don't.
I think anyone else in this spot would have added validation. Like, anyone else.
I mean, I'm saying, like, Cardi B is one of the biggest artists right now, and having her approve of your music is going to help you in the long run.
But, like, I also feel like her verse is just killing time.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
really, it's kind of dumb.
Like, she has had moments in her career where she's actually have attempted to try. Like, her Blueface Tatiana remix, like, she's fucking hilarious on this. It just reminds me, like, oh, it gives me a lot of downtime to think about how she just, like, just a terrible person. And I don't know, I just feel like it's not terrible, but also I just feel like there's nothing there. It's like the one joke I got out of it was the Lifetime joke, and even that was just kind of cringy.
Yeah.
And then kind of, there really isn't anything else. Old Town Road's on here. That's a fine track, the remix, but even then, I like the song. I wish there was more to it. I wish Painini had another verse. Painini. I wish it had a maker section, not just a panini. We need a panini maker. So we can make more paninis.
The character from Chowder. I think that's seriously what it was.
Lil Nas X just needs to do a remix of I'm not your boyfriend, not your boyfriend, not your boyfriend. But there really isn't too much to this. I think he's going for a bunch of different styles. You get some more traditional hip hop. You get this yeehaw rap. Going back to Rodeo, what I really like about that is it's not really more country rap comparative to Old Town Road, but it reminds me a lot of what I liked about the instrumentation of Travis Scott's Rodeo, where it's kind of mixing psychedelic rock with hip hop, and that's kind of why the production. I don't think he needs to do the whole entire yeehaw stick, but I think it works. I think it works as a gimmick that can come up more as a novelty every once in a while. But I wish he would go for more hip-hop centric moments, because the pop rap really isn't working, even though I don't think his vocals are that bad. I think he does have shiny moments. Old Town Road, Rodeo, I think he does shine out with like good vocal performances. I just think there really isn't. It's a lot of different styles of him trying to find his character, and some moments hit, some moments don't. I think the thing that shines out the most is him when he does get a chance to like actually have a verse and not really do like a singing song type deal. It works because his character shines through, and I think he seems pretty funny throughout the entirety of this. I just wish he got a chance to show out his character. I wish he had a more stable producer. I wish there was a couple more features on here, and I wish a lot of these songs were more fuller length, because the song, even like the more fuller length tracks like Closure, Family, they just feel like they're a bit too long, and they're just kind of grasping to this edge of just like, okay, let's try to get to 3 minutes, and then it's like, oh, we don't have enough material, stop here. But yeah, this isn't terrible. It's just a start, and I think I just have to rate it as that. So keep in mind that all scores are futile and meaningless. Right now I'm feeling like a 5 on this, with a gold star, because I feel like he does have a career. This is just some of the stuff on here isn't that career.
Yeah, I agree with some of the points there. I also not sure I agree with some of them. I like Lil Nas X as a character. I think he's really funny, especially like on Twitter, which I know is under fire, but I still think it's hilarious. Like, he makes a lot of good memes on there. I also while I was listening to this, and I was talking about this a little bit earlier, before we started airing. While I was listening to this, I couldn't help but think that Lil Nas X is basically the latest in the long line of like viral rappers ever since Soulja Boy came out with Crank That Soulja Boy, a true classic. And then we had tons of other like one hit wonders. Dare I say? I really hate that term, but like Designer released Panda. That's another huge one I could think of back in 2016 due to like Kanye West's hand in that, and he blew up. But what Designer and Soulja Boy could not do, and even somebody like Bobby Shmurda, which we joke about a lot, like he didn't do this, or Speaker Knockers didn't do this. Like release a good full length project, or like at least release some sort of project after their success in their one song that would like at least keep their relevancy. Like, we look at Designer, and he just waited way too long to release something after Panda that would have kept his relevancy. And even when he did, it wasn't good. The other only song I can think of from Designer is Timmy Turner, and the only thing that makes Timmy Turner good is the Kanye remix. After that, Designer faded into obscurity. He made the XXL freshman list. Haven't heard from him since. Like, seriously. But now, like, we are coming to a point where Lil Nas X saw those mistakes and he capitalized on his success with Old Town Road and released 7 EP. And I think that, like, he was not just doing what made him famous. He's taking that time to experiment with his sound, which I can give him all the credit in the world for doing, because some of the stuff really is enjoyable, but some of the stuff is just not good. And like Vincent said, it is just a start. So he definitely will be able to find his career footing. But I absolutely have to applaud him for releasing a semi-decent project after Old Town Road that'll allow him to launch a career rather than just fade like a lot of these other rappers did. So I'm honestly probably going to have to give this a 6.
Yeah. I hope he really works with Trent Reznor again in the future.
Trent Reznor sounds like an unlockable skater on Tony Hawk. But like a made-up one. Not like a real one.
Okay, that's it. Now it's time for us to return to center. Time to go over Kirin J Callinan's
Return to Center.
Kirin J Callinan is a what, Trevor?
Australian musician.
What did you call him before?
A Vegemite munching kangaroo jockey.
Thank you. And he's mostly known, at least to us, for his 2017 LP Bravado, which me and Trevor still to this day are split on. I liked it. I think it showed a nice dynamic between eccentric artist and kind of like a real person, which was nice. But also, I would admit it has its flaws in writing, at least on some of the later tracks besides Bravado.
I'm going back to it a lot more recently. My brother said he was going to try to write an arrangement of a song about drugs for like this weird band that he's got, and it made me return to like a lot of the songs on here. I also read an article recently about Bravado and Kirin J Callinan as a whole, and I'll talk about that later. But like, I have come to enjoy some of these tracks more than I did, at least when I first heard it.
Yeah, there's hit tracks like Song About Drugs, Down to Hang, Living Each Day, Bravado, and of course Big Enough, which blew up into a huge ass meme from Jimmy Barnes' screaming performance, being the old man in the sky just wailing away at his emotions.
I think it's super funny because I pretty recently just found out like Jimmy Barnes is huge in Australia. Like he's one of the biggest like rock musicians over there, but over here he has absolutely no footing. It's just funny. So we know him as like old cowboy, and they're like rock legend Jimmy Barnes.
His latest project, Return to Center, is an album made up in 14 days as Kirin and his crew bought a ton of equipment from various guitar centers and attempted to return the stuff within 14 days to get the refund back. Brilliant concept. Doesn't really apply to the music that much, but great idea.
Yes.
There's a documentary, mini documentary on Kirin's YouTube channel, and you can see him cringe when that's like, oh, how much is this stuff going to be? Oh, $2,000, $2,693. He's just like, it's great. But each of these tracks kind of consist of a cover, since this is a cover album. 90% of this is a cover album, besides the track Return to Center. Each of these songs, I think, Trevor told me is the song he had in his head going through that day, and that he would attempt to record it. It's really interesting seeing the setup for a lot of these tracks because they're recording like acoustic guitar inside of car. You have Kirin out in the garage. It looks like it's hot as hell in Australia.
I'm sure it is.
No, but it looks like it's hot as hell, and he's just stripping his clothes off, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna take my underwear off, and like the lady with the camera is like, if you feel more comfortable doing it, he just strips down to his bare essentials. And it's interesting seeing the setup because it seems a lot of like ghetto rigged material, which was interesting. I like that type of DIY setup. But I think for the most part, Kirin makes a lot of bold covers, and like these covers are interesting because at least the curation of songs, it's not like when you traditionally hear a covers album, it's like the greatest hits. It's like all of these are like huge pop singles. Like I like the Teal album by Weezer. I think it's a fun record. I also think like all the songs on there were just like basic ass choices.
They really are, but I think they personify Weezer pretty well.
Yeah,
like just. I think like these are songs that like Rivers and crew genuinely liked and genuinely wanted to put their own spin on and just made a record. I don't think it was a cash grab whatsoever. I don't think that it was like cheesy. I don't think it was like just a dumb kind of attempt. But like Kirin picks these songs like, and this may sound stupid, but like these are very like Australian picks. Like
yeah,
not,
I know. It's just,
you know what I mean. It sounds dumb, but like I'm not all that familiar with like Australian music or like
they have a didgeridoo.
Even the types of
that's the only instrument they have.
Thank you. That's it. Everything here was recorded on a didgeridoo. Guitar Center's didgeridoo center. But everything on here was picked by Kirin as like songs that he either grew up listening to or like were important to him at a certain time, and he made like a list of stuff that he wanted to record, and like even the stuff on the list all didn't get picked, and stuff that wasn't on the list got recorded just because it would get like stuck in his head. Something like Vienna was just a like last minute choice to put on here, but these are like very Kirin picks, and I think that they personify him better than if he were to record like just the hits. I don't think that would be very Kirin of him.
Yeah, and also these covers seem a lot more glamorous and large, and they take a lot more risk than some of these tracks. Life is Life, which is a cover of Opus, is kind of like a live recording style track. That's how it gets its big feel. But on this, it doesn't do that gimmick. It
sounds very canned.
It's very canned, but it gives that sense of grandeur, which is nice. And Kirin wailing away with his vocals, screaming "Life is Life." You have the huge, almost like a stomping like percussion of the track.
It feels very like quasi-military, almost like a weird comparison, but like North Korea, like big fake military, big fake parades.
Yeah,
like, that's what this feels like.
Yeah, but it also like weirdness of the whole entire atmosphere of the track very suits Kirin in that style. Just the repetition of the Life is Life over and over again fits his style. The Homosexual, which is a cover of Momus, is lyrically it feels like a Kirin track. This is the Momus where I think it's most personified as a Kirin track.
I had to wonder if this was our original or not.
Yeah, because it's
really weird.
So he's like, in the original song and then the cover, the lyricism about someone who's pretending to be, it's weird. So he accepts the fact that he's a homosexual, but he's only accepting it because bigots are calling him that because he really likes music. So he's gonna get back at them by sleeping with their wives. That's what I get out of the track.
It's like when you're in like elementary school and people are like, "Oh, you're so gay,"
Yeah.
and then eventually you're just like, "Maybe I am gay."
Yeah, but like the weirdness of the concept really fits Kirin because it's just completely out of place. The Momus original version of this is like a new age track.
Yeah,
this is very sultry with its like Spanish like guitar on it. It's just very.
It feels new age as well.
Yeah,
like it. I still feel like those weird glimpses of like new age music on here. I think that he does it justice really well.
Yeah, on Kirin's cover of Hole of the Moon, which is cover of the Water Boys, he amplifies the scope of the song tenfold. He's able to create this like passionate ode. He's screaming away. I think Kirin's passion across this whole entire thing kind of emasculates the entire scope of the project, because I feel like at times he's able to essentially make the project seem bigger than what it actually is, or the lyricism originally was intended to be. It Takes Some Muscle to Fall in Love, which was really kind of this weird like new age reggae track, is turned into this weird like almost desert like sound. It just feels itchy. I think that's one of the ways it feels.
I personally don't really like this track. I think it's kind of annoying. It's got like that weird like 80s feel that just gives me a headache. Oversaturated. But like I also think that it was a very good choice for him as a singer.
Pretty Boy has some really nice instrumentation with just a very bold piano with some synths behind it, the saw synths. So it feels like this really weird depth of texture. It's very different from the Randy Newman cover because it doesn't have "You Got a Friend of Me" over top.
It's not from Toy Story. Randy Newman's the only artist being covered here that I actually recognized. I didn't recognize anybody else except for Randy Newman.
I know Mick Fleetwood Mac.
I know Fleetwood Mac was covered on here, but it wasn't spelled correctly.
But like we go into the Return to Center, which is this weird kind of ambient moment where like Kirin pops up in some glimpses.
Do you know what it is?
What?
He was on tour with the Growlers, and he like needed some sort of filler, and they were just like messing around with the guitars because like I don't think they like. They didn't do something right with like the guitars, and they were just like making some really horrible like sounds on it. And Kirin laid down in the middle of the floor, like just butt ass naked. And then he told them, "When I say 3, just tickle me." But he like laid the microphone down on the floor and laid next to it, and then had the rest of the band tickle him, and that's how he got this laughing. So it was like genuine.
It's interesting. I don't know if that kind of relates to it.
Once I know, I tell you this because once I know what it is, I feel like I never need to listen to this track again. Like, it's literally just like really distorted, screechy guitar with Kirin just laughing maniacally over it. Yeah. But like now that I know that he was literally just being tickled and laughing because he's ticklish. Yeah. Makes this like such a weird. It makes it such a weird, but like also kind of endearing track.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever need to like listen to it again.
Yeah, and then we go into the final 4 tracks: Rise, Sign Curtain, You Weren't in Love with Me, and Vienna. They're all fine. They're all very. I like the like kind of the scratchiness of You Weren't in Love, or no, Sign Curtain, and I like the soulfulness of Vienna. But I just feel like at this point. I feel like this album's kind of done for me. Nothing on here is bad. I think Kirin's continuing to deliver the passion. I think his curation's top notch at that point, but it's just like I don't feel like these 4 tracks seem all that important. I wish the layout was little bit different of these tracks. I wish Hole of the Moon and It Takes a Muscle to Fall in Love were kind of spread out, so more albums surrounding it would seem more important. I wish Return to Center wasn't in the dead middle. I wish it was.
I feel like that makes sense though,
because it's center.
Yeah, yeah.
But like also at the same time, it kind of creates this dead moment where we get the last 4 tracks, and I feel like the album isn't pulling as hard as before. Well, even though Kirin and crew are doing the same amount of work.
I as far as the last 4 tracks go, I actually really did enjoy Rise. I think that the news clip at the beginning and then the end about him getting in trouble at the Arias for lifting up his kilt and flashing the photographers was made out to be something like way bigger than it actually was. And I know that like I've read countless interviews about like what actually happened there, and I think like the biggest thing in that it was like Kirin is just like very comfortable with like being naked and like his body, and people are like really sexualizing it and making that gesture seem like really aggressive, when literally one of the photographers was like, "Oh, I might lift up your kilt. Let's see what's under there." And he did it, and then he got in trouble for it, which I think is like kind of shitty, but also like I think that he handled it really well by like not talking to people about it and like just letting it play out, and like not letting it define him. I really like this track. Sign Curtain I could have done without. I think it's cheesy. I think it's annoying. You Were in Love with Me, it was pretty forgettable, and then I think Vienna was just a really great closer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I really have much to say besides curation. Yeah, curation. No, Kirin has
Curation.
Kirin has a ton of good curation. That's a tongue twister on this project, and I think he makes the covers album his own. All these covers, compared to the original, are completely different versions.
Yes,
and they seem way more bold and Gold Stepper. They seem like completely two different tracks, and a lot of the lyricism fits the character of Kirin, this eccentric person who actually has depth to him, who actually is a human being. Tracks like The Homosexual, Takes the Muscle and Fall in Love, and Signed Curtain, Rise, and build up that emphasis of someone who actually does have that both that weirdness to the point where it's almost this unattainable kind of strangeness about him, but also like a heart, like a human heart, something that's relatable.
Isn't Signed Curtain literally the one where he just keeps going, this is the verse, this is the verse? That's fucking annoying. Get it out of here. I hate that track. What I like most about Return to Center is that it humanizes Kirin. I was reading about Bravado, and I keep going back to this interview, but like I think it also impacted my listening of this and my thoughts on Kirin in general. But this interview was talking about how he felt like on Bravado he was misunderstood, and he was like everything that's funny isn't meant to be a joke. I think he said, which to me is just a dumb statement, but like it kind of makes sense. But also he kept talking about like how people misunderstood Bravado. He's like, it wasn't meant to be a joke. It wasn't meant to be this. I'm just misunderstood. I'm like, this is. I don't like that. That feels really self-centered. That feels really nonsensical to say like, oh, Bravado wasn't a big joke, but I'm gonna joke about it all the time and like make it as absurd and dumb and bad intentionally like as possible, and then tell people it wasn't a joke and I misunderstood. I think it's just a dumb statement. So like, I used to feel like kind of guilty about Bravado and like being in the wrong about Kirin, like I'm not particularly liking him, but now I feel like very much so justified in why I don't like that record. But I think by reading that and feeling like Kirin is more understood on Return to Center, like he made Return to Center with the intention of clearing up like any misunderstandings, like just being himself, because he felt like he wasn't himself on Bravado, which I think is also weird. But like going to Return to Center and being like, this is me, I'm just gonna lay it all out here. I find that this record has a ton of heart, and I actually enjoyed it infinitely more than I did Bravado. Mm-hmm. It makes me return to Bravado with like a different ear, but also I enjoyed Return to Center way more now knowing that.
Yeah. Keep in mind that all scores are futile and meaningless. I'm feeling like a 7+ to 8-. I don't know. I just don't care for the last 4 tracks. That kind of impact my listen, but I feel like everything else he does good curation. I can't knock him on that, and it's good concept. Returning fucking gear to the Guitar Center. I fucking love that idea. Taking the capitalists down. Join the revolution.
I hope he got his refund.
I think he did at the end, because at the end he put his credit card into the.
He's paying for more. He's paying for a late fee.
Yeah, nobody returned it, so it's interesting.
I'm going to have to give this probably a solid 7. I enjoyed it, but it does definitely have its flaws.
Yeah. And that's that. What's next? It's time to butcher this transition. It's time to get into a review of Benny's Butchers, the plugs I met.
I know a lot of plugs.
I know so many plugs that it's too many to count on both hands.
It's too Benny to count. Benny the Butcher is a Buffalo MC and a member of West Side Gun's Griselda Records. You probably heard us talk about him 95 times on the channel before, because once we started reviewing West Side Gun's Supreme Blientele, I feel like the floodgates just opened, and we've talked about West Side and Benny and also Conway the Machine on here more times than I can count. I feel like we're just constantly talking about them. Benny is part of this kind of like 90s East Coast hardcore hip hop sounds, and they are constantly putting out music. Conway, West Side, and Benny just have a huge just output. Anytime you turn around, I feel like there's a new project by one or two or all of them. Benny recently by himself has put out Tana Talk in 2018, which had pretty good production and flow, but it was ultimately kind of forgettable, which I think is like that kind of sucks because I think that all three of these guys have talent.
Yeah.
It's just the huge output makes things forgettable.
Yeah.
Talking about like West Side Gun releasing Hitler Wears Hermes Volume 6. There's been 5 of them before that, and don't ask me to name a single song off of any of them because I don't think that I could.
Well, they do have like some quality content on them.
Yeah, it's all quality. It's just like I can't remember. I think that this is kind of the law of diminishing returns in action here. Their trio album is not out yet.
Yeah, it's not.
What Would Machine Gun Do? Which we just found out that is not racist.
I thought it was like a slur.
I did
it's
too,
just
and it just
gun.
took me forever to like.
That's what it sounded like, at least.
That should be coming out later this year, and I'm really excited for it.
Their debut on Shady Records, which
means Eminem is gonna be there.
He's just gonna stand over in the corner and watch him like a Hulk. And once they make like a Hulk, and once they make fun of Revival, he's gonna just yell at them, and then get him off his front yard.
Amazing.
But the plug's at 7 songs in 24 minutes, and it's released on Benny the Butcher's own label, Black Soprano Family, and it features production from The Alchemist, Beat Butcher, Derringer, and DJ Shay, so the normal crew of producers, at least most of the normal crew with Alchemist and Derringer. So going over this, I wasn't super impressed with Tanya Talk, but I felt like Benny did have, I guess, quality flow and quality production from other producers on there. And I think for this, he comes off as a lot more hungry for most of it, which is nice. And we're getting a lot more, at least larger features. Black Flout of the Roots, Pusha T, Jadakiss, who's raspier than ever on this. Like he feels
been smoking.
He
more
feels congested. Like
him.
he feels like he's holding a lot of phlegm here in his chest, and I feel like someone needs to get him a Mucinex. But over this entire thing, I feel like Benny, again, is hungrier than ever. He seems almost venomous on the most part of this track. I think Crowd for Kings, he plays it a little bit too, he seems a little bit too normal. But after that, I think his verses on Sunday School, Dirty Harry, Took the Money to the Plug's House, an 18-wheeler, he's just completely fiery, and he seems unstoppable in his approach. I really like the verse from Black Fraud on Crowds for the Kings. I think that feature just makes a ton of sense. It just it feels like even weights being distributed.
Oh yeah,
and it just seems like an equal equation being played out. Like when you see it on a board, it just makes sense. Same thing with Pusha on 18-wheeler. The kind of the villainous character that Benny puts on, it's equal to the drug dealing character that Pusha T is.
I'm completely fine with the whole drug dealer persona being put on here because I think it makes tons of sense to be on a project like this.
Yeah, and it isn't for 20 tracks.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, and it also makes sense. The weird rotating keys on Sunday School, it just feels like the spiral of different distorted pianos.
That was a little annoying.
It is, but it's also interesting.
But it also was interesting.
You have the intro verse from Benny, which is completely seems like he's just trying to fight for the spot that he has. I also like, I think it's on this or Dirty Harry, the verse says, I'm not signed to Shady Records, I just look like I am, because he has a bunch of ice, which is interesting. Because I think it isn't really like a signing deal. It's more like, because like
it's just a records deal. Like just
Boogie,
a couple.
Yeah, Boogie has the sign deal, I think. I think this upcoming record is just it's through Griselda Records, so it's like a distribution deal, type something like that. But 38 Special, this is the first introduction I've ever had to him. He sounds like Danny Brown or like ODB. He just has a lot of twang to his voice. He's completely hitting his verse completely left field, and it's really interesting. Going back to Jadakiss, someone needs to get this guy a Mucinex. He's just raspier than ever. I like how these 3 verses lay out over this weird ass beat. Just 3 very distinctive verses being played out, and all of them just seem completely venomous. And I feel like I have to go get someone to suck on my wound because now I'm going to die from venom.
Snake venom.
Dirty Harry with RJ Payne and Conway the Machine. RJ Payne has this very like clenched performance. It seems like he's trying to speak from like right here, and he's just holding his arms. It seems very forced, which is interesting. Like he's trying to be tougher than himself, which I like.
I felt RJ Payne to be kind of a fake character. it was a little like like you said, trying to be tougher than himself. Like when you're just like a little guy, you see this in like cartoons or movies, like you're just a little guy and you like stand on your tiptoes and try to act like bigger than you are. That's what I feel like RJ Payne is doing.
Yeah, I kind of like that character though.
I think it's a little annoying and a little fake, especially compared to Benny's first verse on here, as well as Conway's verse later on. I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Conway and Benny have undoubted chemistry, and they just work
this was
out.
The obligatory feature. I was surprised that Westside himself wasn't on here.
Yeah, we get 5 to 50, which is interesting because it has this nice piano sample over some more like traditional trap production, and he actually kind of lays out it over well, because Conway's last project he tried to go over some trap beats and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
This fits. This feels like Benny's continuing to be himself. He's not trying to be something that isn't. It's just we get more modern production, or more hip production, as the youth would say. I also took the money to Plug's house. The vocals theme feel a little bit faded, which is interesting because it's not like an effect or anything. I think comparative to the keys and the drums, he's just a little bit lower, and they overturn him a little bit, which makes him seem like it almost kind of brings this like weird faded presence on the track, which is interesting because not any other track on the album has that feel, which is nice. I'm impressed with this album. I think he isn't doing anything new, and there isn't any huge ideas being presented on this project or a huge scope, but I think he does seem to amp up the stakes for the most part compared to Tanya Talk. I think this is a tight little 20-minute project that he shows his worth and shows that he is a force to be reckoned with. And that's kind of where I think all the members of Griselda Records right now, they're fighting for their spots, and I think they need to continue fighting their spots. I'm really looking forward to see what this trio record's going to be, what they're going to do together as a group, because I think they're better as a group than individually. They're like the Avengers.
I think it could be really good. I think that like some really standout moments on here, Crowns for Kings with Black Thought on here, I think was awesome. 18 Where with Pusha T. I wanted to see more of this track. It's the shortest track on here besides the intro skit, and I just found it to be immensely enjoyable. I just wanted to go on for a little longer. If I had to have one gripe, I think it's sometimes, not even sometimes, Benny is from this generation that kind of feels like, oh, the more features you have on here, the better it'll be, because it sounds way harder, you know what I mean? And I feel like that kind of mindset fits into a lot of the stuff that he's doing, where he's got like at least one or two features on just about every track, besides Took the Money to the Plug's House, which is his only solo track on here. I just find some of these tracks that just go on for way too long, where he's just pretty much like, yeah, I'll just let the beat play out, because there's not really an end to it. It's not really like, he doesn't treat each beat like it's its own song. He just treats it as like, start that up, we're just going to rap until we're done, and then we can cut it off wherever we want. And that's the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a different mindset. That was a different, older mindset. Somebody like NWA, or like even myself being like a Wu-Tang fan, I really enjoyed that. But I also think that like the Wu-Tang Clan as a whole treated each beat like its own song, and each member didn't overstay their welcome. Like, you listen to a lot of their tracks, and sometimes everybody that's featured on there doesn't even have like a full verse. They have like 4 lines, and they'll pass it off to somebody else. And that's what I really liked. But like Benny, I feel like it's just like, yeah, hell, everybody have a full fucking 3 verses, and we'll just make the longest song ever, and then that's it. It'll be awesome because everybody's on here.
Jadakiss was gonna do 3 verses, but he was gonna die. He's sick.
They just let him go. Then they had to fade him out. Oh, all right, you're done.
Go home, buddy. You're sick. But yeah, keeping in mind that all scores are futile and meaningless right now, I'm feeling at 7. I enjoyed this.
I'm also feeling at 7.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for Benny the Butcher's future, and I hope he puts out more quality content like this, but I hope it's just more condensed.
Yeah, I definitely hope they learn to condense before they do this trio record, because if I'm getting every single track with the West Side, Conway, and Benny feature, as well as any other guest features that they might have on there, like, that track's going to be 3 days long.
Okay. You know what, Trevor? We are 2 old droogs. That's the best transition I can come up. I should go on some, instead of transitions, I should go on some transportation. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Time to get a review of Your Old Droog's Transportation.
Your Old Droog is a Brooklyn Ukrainian American MC. He actually just released this record as a surprise album. He just released it, wasn't even close, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe like a month ago. And we reviewed that, and it was one of our it was probably one of our top rated albums of the year so far. He's not really reinventing the wheel or anything. He's just being himself, and he was just kind of just filling this album to the brim with his own personality and humor and features that fit him and raised him up really well as some really great kind of 90s 2000s underground hip-hop samples, much in the vein of somebody like Doom did back in the day. Some really great tracks like Euros, RST featuring Doom and Makami, Babushka, Funeral March with Makami, S'mores with Wiki and Lil Ugly Mane, which I think is really weird combination. But then he just released another surprise album, Transportation, which is a transportation-based album. It's all about
modes of transportation.
It's kind of like a Sesame Street skit where they talk about all the ways you could get around, and that's kind of what this is.
You got taxis, you got planes, you got buses, you got trains, you got boats,
and that's
the news. A ton more on this album. I think this album, which features production from Skywalker, Purist, Mono, and Stereo, who does a majority of the production on this, Oh No, and Quelly Chris, I think this entire album, Droog's character still fits comparative to previous projects. I feel like the surrounding production and the grime and the edge on this project really fits his character still. I think it seems a little bit forced at times, and it doesn't seem as smooth or lossless as if it wasn't even close. I feel like it wasn't even close. It had perfect transitions, and it was able to just fill its time really wisely. I don't think this is able to do as well, but not to say I don't enjoy it, because I think there's good moments on here, like Stillwell Baby, Train Love, 207, Taxi with Quelle, Vigilantes with Wiki, the 2 bonus tracks at the end, which are the only features on this album. I think he's able to create good music still. I just feel like it doesn't feel like a lot of him, as the last project just seemed like every moment, even production moments which he wasn't even a part of, felt like him, and it felt like it was creating the world he was. This is just he's letting the narrative or the overall theme of transportation take center stage at times instead of him, which isn't a bad thing, because it's a nice switch up. I do enjoy the themes of transportation and the various subjects of transportation that are coming up here, whether he's talking about seeing this girl on the train and being enamored with her, or having going around New York and seeing a bunch of cheese. Or what is it? It's like a cheese cart or something.
Yeah, that was really weird.
It's interesting. There's fun moments to be had on here, but I just feel like sometimes it gets lost, on the track Monthly, which has this end segment where it's talking about this girl who eats a tampon. Doesn't have anything to do with anything. I don't know why that skit's there. It's kind of stupid. I don't really think it fits. I could have done without it. It's not the worst thing.
No,
I just think it's just kind of...
It's the worst thing hearing about it, but I also think that the skit in here was funny. Personally, I actually enjoyed this record probably just as much as I liked. It wasn't even close. I think that having the theme of transportation was really interesting and very grounded. I think what I most like about this is not that Droog is creating his own world like he did on It Wasn't Even Close, which I really enjoyed that as well. But here it feels like Droog is a part of a different world. This gives me a lot of feel of just that weird kind of 80s 90s New York feel. I get a lot of vibes from, like I said, it feels like a Sesame Street skit sometimes. I get a lot of vibes of something like Seinfeld. I get a lot of vibes from the SimCity 3000 soundtrack, which I absolutely adore, and it just gives me a lot of feeling of that.
Yeah.
That's something that I love about.
And I think that's something this album does well when it I feel like it is focused on that, and it doesn't feel like it's killing time. Because while I like My Plane, like I like the first 2 minutes of it, it feels like the second half is just completely killing time.
Yes. Some of these tracks I think go on for way too long with like different skits or different instrumental playouts. Looking at like Taxi with Quelle, when we hit probably the halfway mark and both Droog and Quelle have already had their verses, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna fill the rest of this 5 minutes with? Like, and it's literally just this skit. This guy's like, I like music. I like when it gets faster and slower. I'm like, all right, like let's move this along, buddy.
Yeah. Also, when you talk about that world building, the track "Vigilantes," the remix featuring Wiki, how they're playing their verses off and creating this narrative of trying to hype this guy down and try to get him. Your Old Droog gets shot in the chin in the track. Wiki,
how does that even happen?
He gets shot in the chin. Also, at the same time, he didn't get shot in the chin bad enough to not follow the guy, because he eventually catches up with Wiki, who tackles the guy to the ground.
I mean, you would have had to like just graze the chin, because if you shoot somebody in the chin, it's gonna like hit their throat.
Yeah,
that would probably kill you. You'd have to hit from like a side.
Isn't that what happened to Conway? He got.
I thought he got shot like in the temple.
Oh man,
he was fine.
But yeah, I think he is able to create some world building on this. I think moments where I don't like moments like My Plane, and it feels, or like half the moment on there.
That felt like Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just very like breezy and airy kind of trumpet part, like kind of muted trumpet sample here. I felt really weightless.
Yeah.
But it also kind of did go on for way too long.
Yeah. I think Stillwell, where he's strong as a Stillwell, I think is just very clever and fun. How he's also bringing up rocket launch on the rocket launch. Rockets are the most important form of transportation.
That's the transportation.
I feel like that's the babushka of this album. Where it's just a little short input where I feel like Droog has the most saturated character and just killing it.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah, I feel like he is building this kind of like cityscape, but sometimes it just gets lost in the various elements. Also, what is it? The beginning, I think it's at the end of Lucy Spot on the Wheels, where he's talking about these two white boys who go into
a bodega.
Some inner city bodega, and they're asking for that their pills aren't working because they bought like ecstasy or something, and this guy says it's like Viagra, and they're trying to he's just trying to get him to go away. It just doesn't really fit. It feels like a city theme, but I feel like it just doesn't really have enough presence, and it kind of slows down the track list in something where it really doesn't have a spot. But yeah, I think like Droog's character sense of humor is the best part about this. Droog is still the best part about this, even though we do get some more, I guess, larger in scope ideas of city, or larger in ideas of trying to build world building. I just think sometimes there's just a clunky layout, or there's just some clunky sample choices being clicked on here, and sometimes it just feels like it's trying to kill some time. But I feel like when it does succeed, it does succeed. Taxi with Quelle Chris, their transition verses, the way they're handing off the verse, it fits. That like those two artists mesh well together. Same thing with him and Wiki, how they're trading off sentences and creating this narrative. It works. Same thing with SS Your Old Droog and Train Love. I think it works.
He said in the track is the SS Yod. I thought that was so funny.
Bikes, bleeps, and buses, and like the cheese, those work. I just feel like it's a little bit slow at times because it's hard to transition to these spots.
Yeah,
it's not as lossless.
I think it's a little weird for an album about transportation to not always make its transitions really well. But I think that like the images that this conjures up in my head just gives me a sense of nostalgia that I haven't felt in a really long time. And I really enjoy a lot of Droog's verses on here. I think he's more Doom-like than ever, especially like on the first couple of tracks. Stillwell Baby.
Especially when he's talking about food.
Yeah. Monthly, I actually really did enjoy. The ending.
I like the verse.
The ending of the interview was like really weird, but the beginning of the interview I thought was really funny, as well as like Droog's verses on here. It reminded me a lot of Super Hose. I think that was it was really well done.
Yeah. I think Droog, even though I don't like this as much as his last project, I still think he's putting out quality work in a short amount of time, which is really interesting. Keep in mind that all scores are futile and meaningless. Right now I'm feeling an 8 on this. I did enjoy it. I do think it's probably one of the most essential. Is it an essential project? Do you think so?
Oh, yeah.
It's an essential project. Yeah. We're going to put it in that playlist. It's going to be on the summer episode. Someday. But yeah, I did enjoy this. And I think it does have its flaws, but Droog's character and the world he's building still stands out.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to give it like an 8.5 or 8+. I don't really know what the difference is between those.
8.5 is like 8. 8
What's
plus
an 8.5 plus?
8.5 plus, that's like 8.6, I'm assuming.
Because it's 8.5 plus.
But yeah, I don't think I have too much else to say about it. I enjoyed this project, and I hope Droog keeps on putting out quality content. I just wish he kind of condenses himself down to how it was. It wasn't even close, because that tight form really fit his character. And also, it was tight, but it was also very loose. I feel like there wasn't really too much stakes. I know it sounds stupid, but like it was a tight layout, but there was no stakes.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode of the Anthony and Todd Show. Can you believe we've done 90 of these?
No. I really can't.
One day we're going to do 100 of these, and I'm gonna die.
I'm going to say in 10 weeks we're going to do 100 of these. Crazy.
Not even 10 weeks. That could be like 5 weeks, because I have Jonathan. We're going to fill the gaps. So sometimes we have 2 weeks, 2 episodes per week.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not always going to be 10 weeks. But yeah, if you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Anthony and Todd. You can subscribe to us at youtube.com/The Anthony and Todd Show. You can subscribe to the podcast in various podcast forms, such as Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Podcasts, whatever your podcast fix is that you have that is an iHeartRadio, because iHeartRadio sucks.
Do they have podcasts?
They do. I tried to fill out the form once, and like the thing that they have, it's like, okay, send us an email and we'll contact back with you.
Tell us how much you heart radio, and then you can be on here.
I'm just like, fuck you, iHeartRadio.
I hate radio.
I hate radio so much. But yeah, until next time, guys. Oh, also, patreon.com/The Anthony and Todd Show if you want to give us support through monetary means, so I can buy
a jet
ski and get lost at sea like DJ Khaled. But yeah, until next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I'm Trevor.
This is episode 90, an episode we like to call
Lil Nas X's Illmatic.
And until next time, guys, I already said that.
Bye,
I
everybody.
fucked up. Let's play some outro music.